So maybe we could just close out on this. Given all of so there's a deep history on gold price suppression. It's done on a coordinated scale too. I would encourage people to read the book Gold Wars by Ferdinand Lips. That does a great job of going through the history of all of these gold price suppression schemes. Governments did that to become unrestricted effectively, right? They were subject to this financial discipline of gold, where if you're irresponsible with monetary policy or regulation or taxation, gold would leave your country, right, on a gold standard. So there was a check and balance there on government action. So clearly governments had an incentive to throw that off, which they've effectively done at this point. So now, although maybe, Bitcoin price suppression, maybe, to your point, maybe it's not that big of a deal yet. Maybe it's not happening at all. But as it continues to grow, there will be greater incentives to suppress the Bitcoin price, and therefore greater likelihood that those actions are being taken. So as a punchline to the audience, like, what do we do about it? How do we prepare for it? I'm guessing the simple answer here, like the simple countermeasure, is just hold your own Bitcoin, right? Because if everyone's holding their own Bitcoin, then there is no paper Bitcoin, and then there is no lever to manipulate the price. Is there anything else you would think about or add to that?
Yeah, diversify. I know it's a ugly word, but it's always good to diversify a little bit, because it's not only prices going down, but markets can go down or close. Maybe for Bitcoin that's a bit difficult, but bans or making Bitcoin illegal, closing down exchanges. That's something we have seen in the past, and. If you depend on your Bitcoin, well, right now we're in a moment in time that we still need fiat for most exchanges, or most other transactions. So until the time is there that most people accept Bitcoin as legal tender, baby, but for their services and trades. Until that time, it is wise to diversify a little bit into real estate, gold, have some fiat for liquidity, for short-term purchases, so that it doesn't disrupt your life if something happens. That, I guess, that's always a very smart thing to do. And with Bitcoin, indeed, I guess the next level would be, right now it's an asset. It's an investment. You can trade it. You can make money. You can trade it, but really use it as payment for your services. That is something that is interesting to look at. That is also a form of hedging, because it makes you less dependent on the fiat world. If you could buy your food and fill your car, your gas with Bitcoin and get paid in Bitcoin, well, then the whole dollar doesn't matter that much anymore to you. If you could rent or buy your house in Bitcoin, whatever, the dollar is not important anymore. So that's the next phase, if you will, the next level of Bitcoin maturing. And the whole case of El Salvador is a big step towards that. So I really hope there's more countries indeed following that lead, because that would always create some spots in the world where you can always trade your Bitcoin and buy a house with Bitcoin and buy food with Bitcoin, and then the entire concept of the dollar or fiat goes away. The need for that goes away. And maybe one more thing, by the way, the U.S. perspective versus the European perspective for futures markets and maybe also option markets, derivatives markets for Bitcoin could be different, because Americans are forbidden to, or it's illegal for Americans to, and correct me if I'm wrong, to trade on unbanked exchanges. So exchanges like BitMEX or Deribit,
Yeah,
where
that's correct.
you can only send Bitcoins there, trade whatever you want to trade, and then withdraw in Bitcoins. They don't have a fiat on and off ramp.
Mm-hmm.
And for Europeans, that's legal. So we do that all the time. We just
Mm-hmm.
send Bitcoins somewhere, trade some stuff, and get the result back in Bitcoin. And so that's so that whole withdrawal thing, the risk that you cannot withdraw if you enter a futures contract. So when it's cash settled, for example, in the CME, right? I think the CFTC makes it compulsory to go through CME for Americans. I don't think there's any other big exchange at the moment that does futures and options that you can access. But for a lot of people outside the US, there is, and these exchanges flourish, and they don't have the risk of non-withdrawal because they're all Bitcoin based. There is no fiat, and
Right.
so I think the risk could be the manipulation risk could be higher perceived by US citizens than non-US citizens.
Yeah, it's great advice. I mean, the more, I guess you could just actually move your life onto a Bitcoin standard, right? Where your inflows and outflows are Bitcoin
Yes.
denominated. You just gain all of those advantages of using a money that, affords you maximal individual sovereignty, and it never closes down. It's immune to the opinions of anyone, frankly, which is very powerful.